You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Sarah's outnumbered in studio today because there are DCE students galore and DCEs in studio. So
It's
you get to learn all about DCEs today, Sarah.
That's true. I do enjoy that. It's fun.
Well, we are excited to talk with our friends from Concordia University Chicago about the DCE program and learn what it's like to be a DCE student. We'll do that in just a moment. Thanks to Concordia University Wisconsin for your support of the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
3 students joining us this segment and a few more in the next segment from Concordia University Chicago, which also happens to be my alma mater.
And mine.
And Sarah's as well.
I was not
but
a
you were not a
DCE,
DCE student.
No.
We can make you an honorary DCE student, maybe.
Sure. Why not?
Joining us in studio today, Scott Treptow. Scott, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Did I get it right?
You did. Yep.
Oh, man.
Yep.
I'm proud of myself.
Nice job.
I pronounced it. And Josh Meeks. Josh, welcome.
Thank you.
And Emily Miner, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm interested in learning about how the DCE program became an interest to you, because we've been doing a series here on the Coffee Hour called Set Apart to Serve. Maybe you've heard about the Set Apart to Serve initiative. And so helping our listeners understand what that process is like, becoming interested in a church work program to the actually becoming a church work student to becoming a church worker as well. When was your initial interest in becoming a DCE? Where did you first learn about DCEs or become interested in becoming a DCE?
Yeah, initially I had never thought about becoming a DCE. I had a DCE in my home congregation in Raleigh, North Carolina, who was super influential in just my spiritual development and just really pushed me towards that and said that I had a heart for ministry. And that's kind of how I ended up here.
And we'll learn more about your story in just a second. But Josh, what was your initial interest in becoming a DCE?
I think it had to do with just a lot of wrestling. I originally wanted to be a music teacher, which then switched to history teaching, and then that eventually switched into DCE ministry. Just a lot of different influences from the variety of pastors I've had, and then my own home DCE just led me on this path of I want to do DCE ministry.
Yeah. Well, there's a teaching theme going on there and all of those. So yeah, very cool. Scott, what about you?
Unlike these guys, I never heard of a DCE until my freshman year of high school. My home church called our first DCE. So I got to see the DCE position be built in a church that didn't have one. And I thought that was really cool. And mainly my freshman, sophomore year of high school, I just thought it was cool to play games all day because that's what I thought DCEs did. So I've been enlightened since then. We don't just play games. It's just a very small part of the job. But that's kind of how I found out about the ministry and why I love it.
So you guys are all students at Concordia Chicago in the DCE program. Let's talk about how this program has really affirmed your interest in serving in this way in the church. So tell us a little bit about your experience entering into this program, some of the stuff you've learned, how this program has really affirmed that decision that you have of serving in the church. Scott, we'll start with you.
Well, going in, I didn't really know much about the program or what DCEs do. So I was encouraged just to have a broad overview of what DCEs do and learn that DCEs can do just about anything. So if you're really into music, you can do music ministry with a DCE certification. If you want to do like little kid ministry, you can do the little kids. If you want to go with high school, you can go with high school. I think it's just really cool to be so broad, but so specific with Christ at the center of your entire ministry. But yeah, I really loved our intro class. And we had an assignment where we had to write a stump speech, which was like a 1-sentence speech on what a DCE does.
Oh.
And mine was DCEs facilitate the education of all Christians from cradle to grave. So
nice.
I thought that was really cool.
Josh, how has your education been formative for you in affirming this interest in serving as a DCE?
Well, I am similar in Scott's mindset where I was like, oh, it's fun and games. I'm going to have a great time with kids all the time. And then I walk into here and I realize there's so much more to just DCE ministry than just hanging out with kids. It's also like Bible formation. It's a lot of Bible studies, working with younger kids, but also older people. It's a variety of just ages and different programs. And it's like, wow, there's so much going on. And I didn't realize I'd be walking into that, but I really love realizing that I'm going to be doing that now.
Emily, how about for you?
Yeah, I initially went in for education and I've gotten to grow so much because kind of like Scott was saying, it is like a lifespan education. And as DCEs, we're really like the Swiss Army knives of church workers. We can kind of do everything, which is something that I appreciate. And as much as I love a good routine, I love being able to like hang out with the kindergartners or then host a youth group or work in adult Bible study and kind of do it all. And I really just see the Lord working through all of those various areas with different spiritual gifts and getting to work with a variety of different people in all age groups.
Yeah, you guys have all mentioned that there's a lot of variety when you're serving as a DCE, and a lot of it is, related to what you're interested in and how you want to pursue that. So let's talk a little bit about the classes that you've taken, because all three of you are juniors, is that right? So you've got some classes under your belt. What classes have been?
So I actually just transferred from Concordia Irvine. So I'm actually going to pick two if that's okay. But
yeah, that's fine.
I had one that I took at Concordia Irvine that was a family ministry class that was all about family systems. And that class was really transformative in just how you viewed the church as a whole unity. And then it actually really helped me as I stepped into Concordia Chicago and learning about parish education, because that was something that was kind of unfamiliar to me. I grew up in a different church setting than traditionally. So getting to apply what I had just learned into an actual context was fantastic and definitely one of my favorite classes.
Cool.
Josh, key classes for you?
I would say that when you take classes at the DCE, Parish Teaching 1 and Parish Teaching 2 are really good classes. Parish Teaching 1 focuses more on the children's education, like preschoolers, younger kids, and it's really helpful because we actually get to go down to our preschool center and we get to teach these kids their Jesus time. And it really helps create the things we need to do so we can get ready for children's ministry, because, coming in, we're definitely not prepared. But now as we move on with these classes, it really helps us. And then Parish Teaching 2 is much more of a focus on the adult ministry, Bible studies, stuff like that. And that's really helpful because you're focusing not on younger kids anymore, but now the older people, high schoolers, things like that. And it's really helpful.
What was the highlight of Jesus time with preschoolers for you?
Yeah.
When we play games, it's a lot of fun. Some of my highlights is just, I had a game where I think we had Easter eggs, and then they were supposed to be like the stone rolling away the tomb. And then the kids were supposed to push it away, but they couldn't use their hands or their feet. So they had to use their nose or something, or they could just blow on them and they had to push them out. And that was really funny. And the kids really enjoyed that.
How about for you, Scott? What are the classes that have been really key in your formation as a DCE?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Josh. It's the same one with Parish Teaching 2 or 1. The one with the little kids, anyways. 1. So, a little background. I'm the youngest in my family, so I did not deal with little kids growing up, and I thought they were kind of gross and annoying. So, being able to teach them their Jesus time was very eye-opening and very nerve-wracking. I think the first time my heart rate reached 130. So I was terrified of teaching these kids. Then by the end, I got down below 90 with my heart rate. So that was good. And I was really comfortable with them. And I realized that they're just kids and they're just happy that you're there teaching them about God.
And they need to hear about Jesus too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. What was the highlight of hanging out with preschoolers?
I think the end of our last session that we went down there, they all crowded around us and gave us high fives. But they're all really little, and I'm fairly tall. So they're all trying to see who could jump the highest. And it was so funny because they were so excited, and I was just standing there with my hands up, and they were loving it.
That's amazing. Now, you guys brought up a good point that on the Concordia Chicago campus, there's an early childhood center that you guys are really able to have that relationship with as your students. So how has the campus community on Concordia Chicago's campus been a part of your formational experience as a DCE? Scott?
I would say just being able to see kids on campus, because I know a lot of college campuses, I've heard college students just kind of forget that kids exist. And you can't forget kids exist on Chicago's campus, because sometimes you'll see them walking around. They could be playing with chalk sometimes. And it's very lively and you get to see the potential kids that you will minister towards at some point in life. I think it's just really cool to know that it's a lively campus. They're there, and you get to see some of the outcomes of your ministry.
Yeah, they're really cute kids. They walk around with their teachers and they're holding hands. They sometimes show up for chapel, and then you get to see them and they're just they're there for chapel, and it's really cute just seeing them kind of move around a little bit, and they're like, hey, can I do this? Hey, can I do that? While they're in chapel, and it's really cute, and it's nice to know that they're not just sectioned off in their own little sector, but they actually get to be around campus and actually get to interact with some of the things we do.
the body of Christ is all ages, like you talked about earlier, that lifespan education as well. Yeah. I remember as a student, I remember being in chapel occasionally, and we didn't have the early childhood kids in chapel yet at that point. And I remember times going, wow, it's really quiet. There are no babies crying. And then being in the parish, like for field ed, and hearing babies crying. This is what church, this is congregation. This is, and it was amazing how the absence of that made a difference for me. Yeah. All right. Campus life and how that makes a difference in your formation as a DCE.
Yeah. I think it's so practical because like we all kind of have said, like we loved going down there and getting to hang out with the little kids and really just watch their faith grow. And I think that for us as college students, it's really fun to see like the parallels of like, oh my gosh, we're growing together as like students, but then you also get to watch these little kids grow together. And it's just such a cool, like whole campus involvement. It's not just college kids and faculty. It's also like college kids with kindergartners and stuff. So, yeah.
So you all are juniors. That means you have some more education ahead of you before being released into the wild. What is the next step? What are you looking forward to in the next chapter, Josh?
So after this, we'll have senior year, and then I'll go on internship wherever Dr. Arfsten places me, wherever that may be. And then from there, I'm just hoping to be in a parish for some time, and then I will reevaluate where I want to be, because right now I think just being in a parish would be the best thing for me, and I'm really excited to actually start being part of some church.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm going to not steal Josh's answer exactly, but just to be part of a community and grow closer with especially high schoolers and kids, and just be connected in a church, because we kind of get that with field work, but being with a congregation for years and building those relationships is, I think, ministry is really based on.
What are you looking forward to next, Emily?
I'm so excited just for, honestly, our senior year together to really pour into fieldwork and then to, hone those skills right before we get to go out on internship and watch the relationships flourish as we step into those congregations.
Well, thank you all for spending some time with us. We're going to talk with more of your classmates in just a little bit in the second half of the program. Our guests for this first half, Scott, Josh, and Emily, thank you so much for being our guests on the Coffee Hour.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You're listening to the Coffee Hour. We'll talk with more DCE students in just a moment. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
At Concordia University, Wisconsin, we believe you were created for a reason: to use your God-given gifts to help others, to live a life of self-sacrifice in a me-first world, to live a life that's uncommon. Whether you're taking one of 50-plus online programs or learning with us in person on the shores of Lake Michigan, you'll be equipped to make an uncommon impact. Learn more at cuw.edu. Concordia University, Wisconsin. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
We are continuing our conversation in the Set Apart to Serve series. Today we are talking with DCE students at Concordia University Chicago and the director of the DCE program, Dr. Debbie Arfsten. She's professor of Christian education, the DCE program director, and director of Synodical Placement at Concordia University Chicago. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And every year you provide a wonderful treat for us. You bring some of your students in the DCE program, juniors and seniors, to come to the International Center and other Lutheran sites in St. Louis and learn about the alphabet soup, as we might say. What do all these letters mean, including DCE, which means Director of Christian Education? But you bring them here to the International Center. We get to meet them and show them around what's going on at the International Center. And it's a treat for us to spend some time with students in studio and learn about their experience as students. So we're going to also talk with two more students from Concordia University Chicago, Justin Weber. Justin, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Justin, you are a senior in the DCE program, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And we also have Mckenna Stanley. Mckenna, welcome.
Thank you.
Mckenna is a junior, correct?
That's correct.
Well, it is a delight to have you both here, and we're going to ask you some really hard questions while your professor is here.
Yes, this will be graded.
Put on some. No quizzes today. Really more your personal story. When did you first learn about the ministry of DCEs? When did you first learn about directors of Christian education? And when did it become an interest for you to pursue this? When did you start thinking about becoming a DCE? We'll start with you, Mckenna.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily knew that the Director of Christian Education program existed or what a DCE meant until I was about in 8th grade or freshman year of high school. My church has always had a DCE, and so it was great to have that experience and that encouragement from a young age. I never considered their career, however, until I was about in middle school, high school, sat down with my home congregation, DCE. He chatted with me about what it means to be in this career, told me about his experience at Concordia Chicago. And ever since then, I kind of fell in love with the program and knew that was exactly what I wanted to do.
Wow.
That's fantastic. Passing it on. Justin, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, I took kind of a gap year after high school, knowing I wanted to do youth ministry, but not necessarily where. And after a service year and kind of it fell through the first week, I met my DCE coming back from the plane ride. And so kind of talked with him a bit, and him and another person at my church were like, hey, you should go consider being a DC at CUC. And it kind of just like everything fell into place at that moment and it all worked out.
I love these stories of sharing careers, sharing church work, vocations with the younger generations. It's a good reminder for all of us serving in church work. So let's talk about how the DCE program, since both of you have some years under your belt, how the DCE program has affirmed your interest in doing this church work vocation. So how has your experiences affirmed that this is the right place for you, Mckenna?
I think our program at Concordia Chicago is very an integral part of why I wanted to be a DCE. As you get into the program right away from your sophomore year, you're placed into a fieldwork congregation, so you really get that hands-on experience right away. And evangelism has always been a passion of mine, so it's really neat to meet other people who aren't from your home congregation or even from a similar congregation as yours, to interact with the students in Bible studies and youth group, young adult fellowship, and just kind of get that hands-on experience while learning something new from a mentor.
Justin, how has your experience as a student in the DCE program affirmed that this is what you want to do?
Yeah, so I think when I first started, I was kind of like, oh, I just teach the Bible to like high schoolers and stuff. But after these 4 years, especially being at my fieldwork church, I really learned like what it means to make disciples and really like what does that look like? Not just teaching them the Bible, but also teaching them how to live out their faith and just all of the stuff that comes in between. And that came through just classwork, learning just through fieldwork, and just being able to just have trial and error in classes.
All right. So you're in senior year, so you've had the majority of your classes for the DCE program. You still have internship ahead of you, correct?
Yes, I do.
What are some of the key classes that have really been formative for you?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to Parish Teaching 1, and that class was like children's ministry was not my strong suit going into college. But with that class, it really helped me grow, really helped me set that firm like foundation of like, okay, this is where I want to see like my ministry and how like God will guide me in the next few years. I think that class is when I started really taking the program a lot more seriously and really started trying harder than all my other classes.
Mckenna, for you, what class has really stood out so far?
I think so far, definitely the class that we're in now, I'd have to go with Parish Teaching 1. You learn all about youth ministry and what it's like to do children's ministry. My passion is youth and young adult ministry, so I've had a lot of experience outside of the program in that age category. So being in youth ministry, it's really allowed me to embrace those skills working with younger students, especially in our early childhood education center, and just get a better grasp on that. I'd also have to say Formula of Concord. For as far as learning the Lutheran doctrine and getting to ask questions and think critically in that class with Dr. Lee.
Ooh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that class. That would be really fun. So you mentioned the Early Childhood Center, and the DCE students have a chance to be a part of that Early Childhood Center. What is that? How has that relationship, that ability to teach kids on campus, been a part of your formation, Mckenna?
It's been an amazing experience. We actually just finished up in the Early Childhood Education Center, and the kids remember you as you come in. They remember you by name or the prior lessons that you teach. And Dr. Arfsten always tells us it's not, you don't have to be perfect at everything when you're presenting in front of the kids. They're just happy that you're there, and you really are making a formational change in their lives, helping them to learn about Jesus and just, creating relations with them. So it's been great.
Mm-hmm. Justin, let's talk about the being on campus. How important is being on campus a part of your formation as a DCE?
Yeah. So, my first year and a half was like, because of COVID, was in my mom's basement. But especially once I got there, it really helped to grow those relationships with people, start kind of getting into these good conversations with people about ministry, something I'm still having with underclassmen now, and getting to walk with people who were seniors when I was a sophomore, and like they just kept encouraging me, and like remember like some of those hard conversations I was able to just have with them and not feel judged or feel like, oh, I need to have the right answer. I can just ask something out of the park. And that just helped me grow and be able to want to do that as a senior now.
What's campus experience like for you as a DCE student? How does that make a difference in like the day-to-day as a DCE student?
One of the things, especially because we are going into a career of ministry, is I truly do think of my day-to-day campus experiences as an opportunity to share the gospel, to evangelize to other people, but also just a learning opportunity. You know, we're sitting in the heart of Chicago or that River Forest area, and it's a really diverse community, but that's something that I've found to be a beautiful experience. You're learning about people who come from different backgrounds and different faiths. Not everyone's Christian or Lutheran for that matter. So it's a two-way street of I get to tell them and they get to tell me, and kind of let that soak in.
Very cool. So, Justin, you're a senior, as we've mentioned several times. That means you're looking ahead to the future very soon. What are you looking forward to the most in the next chapter?
Yeah, so I just learned my placement this last Saturday.
Oh.
So I'm going to Hartley, Iowa, St. Paul, and then also Camp Okoboji.
Oh,
so getting to do kind of this dual internship with camp ministry and church, those are just two big passions in my life, and getting to really understand that and try to just learn and just grow and actually get to kind of start doing these things I've been learning the last few years is so exciting. As like, it's like in a month, maybe in like a month and a half, I'll be out there, and it's like, that's coming up soon. It's like, and just there's so much joy what the Lord's been giving with that.
Yeah, it's very real for you right now. Mckenna, what about you? What are you looking forward to as you enter senior year next year and beyond?
I think I'm looking forward to the most continuing these pivotal conversations, as Justin mentioned, and then hopefully just, getting that, soaking in those last couple moments on campus and being with our program. Justin and I actually just sat down the other day and chatted a little bit more about how can our campus be a mission field, especially the chapel in specific. And so I think continuing on the spiritual life team, I'm interested in continuing those conversations and hopefully making a change.
Yeah.
Dr. Arfsten, you got to hear all of your students speak about their experience as students in formation as church workers. For you, getting to play a key role in this formation experience, what are the key classes? What are the key experiences you want students to have in this formation?
So one of the goals that I always have with classes is to give them really practical experience and practical assignments that they can use in ministry. So it's very affirming to hear pretty much every student talk about like the parish teaching class, because we just are finishing that up right now. And that ability to teach them how to do Jesus time, how to do children's messages, and then for them to literally go downstairs and for several weeks lead that. And for me to be able to watch their growth from back in February, till April. And their confidence level goes way up. And now they feel like they got this. Mm-hmm. And another class we're doing right now is youth ministry class. And for example, one of their key assignments is putting together a plan to take 20 kids to the National Youth Gathering. And they're learning about like all the details and all the planning that goes into that. But that is something that then when they are out, they can actually come back to that assignment and go like, oh yeah, we had to put this in the budget and we have to think about adults and all of that. So it really is a goal of mine that they're not doing busy work, homework, but they're actually doing things that will help them when they get into the parish.
How does your formation as a DCE, thinking back to your formation as a DCE, how has that changed? What have we learned about DCE ministry, and how has that changed to how we form DCEs today?
It has changed a lot. So I'm coming up on 20 years at Concordia. So I spent a number of years in parish ministry and now doing this. And even in the last, I'd say 10 years, culture has changed, ministry has changed. And so now the challenge becomes, how do I help equip them for today's families, today's young people, today's children, because they're facing such different things. And so it's always an ongoing education for me to say, okay, what I did last year or the year before may not be as applicable than something else could be.
So much learning, not just for the students, but also for those who are teaching the students as well.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for bringing the students to share them with us here at the International Center so we can see what future church workers are learning and what life is like for them as students as well, and giving us a chance to share it with our listeners here on the Coffee Hour. Thank you so much for being our guest today on the Coffee Hour.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Coffee Hour. You can learn more about Set Apart to Serve by visiting lcms.org/SAS. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.